I earned $28,000 in a day with remote sales using a new sales method that I really haven't seen anyone talk about. And it's insane how well it works because after you learn to do this, selling becomes easy on any offer and any type of sales. Whether it's door-to-door sales, car sales, remote sales, really anything. And this strategy is the exact way how I was able to close over $3 million this year and become the #1 door-to-door salesperson in my entire company. And so in this video, I'm going to explain my background, how I actually discovered this new way of doing sales, and how you can apply it to your sales calls or whatever sales industry you're in as well. So I started my journey in sales with door-to-door sales, right? And if you're in door-to-door sales, or really any kind of sales, you know how this works. There's huge ups, right? There's periods of time, maybe a week, a few months, whatever it is, that you do extremely well. But there's also periods where you don't do well, right? I mean, this lasts maybe a day, maybe it lasts a month, a week, who knows? But there's always a period where you kind of fall off a little bit. And you feel that worry, right? It's like, whoa, what's going on? And I had this issue. I did extremely well my first 1 or 2 months of door-to-door sales, and all of a sudden I just did horribly. And I thought to myself, how can I go from doing amazing, crushing all the other reps, like literally the best in the company, to all of a sudden, I'm not even doing one deal a day. Like, how is that possible? I'm knocking more doors, I'm more passionate than I've ever been, and I'm more frustrated. Like, I'm literally fighting with the customers at this point. How am I not even doing a fraction what I was doing before, right? And I later realized the reason for this when my manager came in and he asked me to basically train some of the new door-to-door reps, right? And once I was shadowing this guy, I realized, and if you're in door-to-door sales, you know how, if you've ever trained somebody, right? They either do amazing or it's the most cringy thing you've ever seen and you literally are embarrassed for them, right? And this guy that I was training, it was one of those guys, one of the ones I was embarrassed of. Because when I was watching his actual pitch, right? I realized it wasn't his objection handling that was the problem. It was just his general approach for the entire sales pitch. And how I realized this was the objection handling portion of his pitch, I would have done the exact same thing. There was nothing wrong with that. In fact, the customer didn't really have anything to say at the end, but they still didn't want to buy it. And I was like, why is this, right? And after I basically trained him, I went home, I thought to myself, what the fuck happened, right? Why is it that he handled all those objections basically perfectly, but the customer still just didn't buy? And this is kind of where it kind of clicked for me, right? Because I realized that most people, if you're getting to the end of your sales call or your sales pitch or whatever, and you feel like you're countering all the customer's objections, like super logically, super fluidly, they have nothing left to say, right? They can't even make an argument against you. You caught them in a lie, basically. It's like a I gotcha moment, right? Your objection handling is not the problem. It's, in general, how are you actually approaching the call? Because think about it. Most sales reps don't actually care. They don't give a fuck, right, about the entire process until they get to handling objections, right? If you've ever been sold to and you feel like the entire time the salesperson's like, oh, it's okay, it's normal, whatever, and then all of a sudden, when you guys get in the talk to actually buy, it seems like a flip just switches, right? This is exactly how most salespeople sell. And what they don't realize is if they fix the beginning part, right, which is their approach, the beginning is their approach, instead of just focusing on the objection handling part, their close rate is going to go up insanely. So most people don't know how to sell, and you have to realize these same people who don't care at all about the general approach of the actual sales call, these are the ones that are writing your script. And I realized that, I was like, fuck the script. Like, why am I listening to these people? Like, these people are telling me exactly what to say in order to sell. So it's like, fuck the script, I'm gonna do my own thing, right? And it's exactly what I did, and I came up with this thing called scriptless selling. Obviously, there's a framework for it. It's not like, okay, just go talk to the customer and just don't use the script. That's not the entire point of it. But I basically came up with this approach, and it's worked extremely, extremely well for me and a lot of the other people that I've talked to about it. And so in terms of how this actually works, I'm going to get into that in a second. But the reason why this works so well is just because you're selling purely from the heart, right? It just flows very, very well. And I remember when I was in door-to-door sales, sometimes we get stuck. It was mainly in the beginning, to be honest, but we all have those moments where it's like, it's almost like a trance. You talk to the customer and you say your whole pitch and everything, right? And they're talking, and you don't know what to say next. And in your head, you're just thinking there. It's almost like time is going slowly, and they're talking to you, and yada, yada, they're talking, and you're thinking of what to say, and just nothing comes out. And you kind of just stand there and it gets awkward and you finally blurt something out and it's just weird, right? And you got to realize when you sell with scriptless selling, this kind of stuff doesn't happen, right? Because you have kind of a framework on what you can say. You know, it's not variable basically. You're following kind of a linear path. So here's how it works. And I'm going to explain it in a way where it's like two people, right? So I want you to imagine these two people. This person right here, you have nothing in common with them, right? This is the kind of person that you are forced to make conversation with. Maybe it's like a younger cousin or whatever, right? And you got to force it. It doesn't feel good, but you got to talk to them, right? At the end of the conversation, nothing comes out of it, right? You guys both walk away from the conversation knowing you're never going to talk to each other again. Now, on the other hand, this person is somebody that you really relate to, right? I want you to think about how easy it is to make conversation with this person. It's super effortless, right? It's almost like you could talk for hours, it's smooth, they become your best friend. And you walk away feeling good from the conversation, right? You have to realize, what is it with this one person that you do not have with this one person, right? And the reality is, it's just relatability, right? You guys had common ground, and that's why you were able to talk so well. This person you didn't have any common ground with. And what a lot of salespeople don't realize is you can find common ground with your customer, right? And I'm not talking about building rapport and doing all this. No, it's one general thing that I guarantee you have in common with all of your customers, that they also have in common with you. And this one thing is basically just help. You have to realize it's a value exchange. If you can help your customer, right, and they benefit from that, guess what? You guys both win. Because if they benefit from you selling your product, you make commissions. But the main problem is salespeople don't bother to find out whether they can help their customer or not. You might think that you're helping them. You might think deep down, I know I can help this person, this product, they could use it, yada, yada, I'm gonna sell them, right? But this is not how it works. You have to basically figure out if you can help them or not. And this is basically done by asking the right questions in the discovery process. And these kinds of deep questions with actual depth is what gets you to figure out whether you can help them or not. It's like, for example, right? If you've ever had a topic you're super passionate about, right? Maybe it's science, math, skateboarding, whatever it is. When you are super passionate about that topic, you figure out the root reason for everything. Someone might teach you something and they'll explain it, but you'll ask why. Wait, why is it like this? And they'll explain it, and then you'll ask, okay, why is it like this, right? And you basically need to do this, and you need to channel this energy into your sales calls. And once you basically do this discovery process, this is when the entire approach, the energy of the sales call has completely shifted, right? And the issue I notice with most salespeople is that they understand that they should help their customer. It's kind of a concept. It's like, yeah, of course you should. You shouldn't scam people, right? But they don't actually do it properly, right? It's kind of like one of those things where when you, like, imagine you get in trouble a lot as a kid, right? Your parents keep yelling at you about the same thing. At a certain point, it's like, yeah, whatever, I know this, right? And you kind of just breeze past it. This is the exact same thing when it comes to salespeople and helping people, right? Because you have to realize, you have to figure out whether you can help your client or not. It's not something that you cannot help every single customer, right? So for example, for me, I have some sales calls where I just don't sell them. I tell them, you're probably better off without this. And this frame helps me so much because first off, I have to actually figure out and ask the right questions to figure out whether I can help this person or not, right? That's how I ultimately even ended up at the point where I can say you don't need this, right? But even though some of these calls I'm giving up and I'm telling them like I can't help them, the calls where I actually can help people, right? Where it actually does make sense for them, these people convert at a much higher rate. And if you are in sales, and if you've ever had somebody where it's like, you know you could have sold them, you have that feeling after, it's like, fuck, I could have sold them. And you want to call them back almost, but you know it's not the right thing to do. You don't have any of these anymore if you have this frame properly. So there's 3 very simple steps on how you can transition into, selling without a script, right? But you got to realize, none of this shit's gonna work unless you have the right frame. It's like a car basically, right? These 3 steps I'm gonna give you, honestly, you don't even really need them to be honest, but I see them as like your taillights, your headlights, and your window tint. They really help you. It helps to actually have, tints and, lights, but it's not absolutely necessary to make the car actually drive, right? And the thing that's most important to having your car drive is what? It's your engine, right? I see the frame you take your calls, right? Whether you're actually asking the right questions to help your customer, to figure out whether you can help them or not. That's your engine. That's kind of your guiding force. So on to the 3 steps. The first step is basically you have to see which part of your script works for you already, right? It doesn't make sense to go from having read your script this entire time to all of a sudden no script, right? You're just gonna freeze up again. So you kind of have to start off with just reading your script. But the second step is basically you have to figure out which parts of your script don't work. Which parts of the script do you get a weird reaction from the customer for, right? Which parts of your script do you kind of trip yourself up at? And that's the part that you really have to deep dive and change. And that's the third step, basically. You have to do analysis on what you could have said better. And you might think, wait, but how do I do analysis? I can't really record my sales calls. That might be kind of weird, whatever. Just think, right? If I'm being honest, I didn't record a single one of my sales calls. In my entire door-to-door sales career, my entire remote sales career, every single time I had a call, I would just sit there after the call and just think, what went wrong with this call? It was going well in the beginning, but all of a sudden this guy, his frame changed here, or he said this here. And I would just think, and I'd be like, okay, I should have said this instead. It's almost like after you get in a fight with somebody at school, you have some verbal confrontation, right? You take a shower, or you might sit down for a long time and you think, shit, this comeback would have been insane, right? It's the same thing. Just sit down and think. Now, if this takes you a long time to do this kind of analysis, don't worry, right? These kinds of things take time. This is generally probably one of the hardest part about sales. It's not being able to read your script. It's not being able to impress your sales manager. It's really just, you got to be able to know that you can do better, number one. And the next thing is you got to figure out what it is exactly that you could do better. So this is the main thing that honestly took me the most amount of time. And I was able to figure it on my own, but in my personal opinion, if I had somebody helping me where they could have just told me what I could have said instead of me kind of having to think about it, I'm basically teaching myself at that point, I would have saved a lot more time. And this is basically exactly why I offer an actual coaching program, because I realized if I can save salespeople time, where I can help them with their sales, and they can make more money faster because of it, then it's a win-win situation for both. And this is also exactly why I offer coaching specifically for people who are in other fields of sales, right? Maybe it's cold calling or door-to-door sales, and you want to transition to remote sales. Because I've been there, right? I've been in another sales career. I know the exact transitions that you need to apply in order to actually have a successful remote sales career. And I basically structured this entire program where it's a plug and play system where I basically guide you A to Z from finding an actual offer in remote sales all the way to maximizing your offer to make more than 10, make more than 20, make more than 30K a month with remote sales. So if this sounds interesting to you, click the link below, sign up for a free call, and we'll see if it's a good fit to work together.